Okay, so Tiffany, I just wanted to introduce you. I just am so grateful for you to share your experience as we guided you through your ketamine journey. So, yeah, just tell us a little bit about how you got into it and what it was like for you, where you're at now, all that good stuff.
Okay. Do you want me to go like just about my sessions or back
Or just
more?
kind of like how did you get brought into the ketamine environment? How did you uh yeah, how did it come to be?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I think that so I had started consistent therapy in October of 2024. And then we got new insurance in January, which um, and that the therapist that I'd been working with was a therapist that was online that had moved with me because we've moved a lot.
Yeah.
And in January, we were living in Utah again, and we had insurance where virtual therapy was 100% covered. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to dive into it a little bit more. And I wanted somebody who was, I was working with a male, and it was just great for what he was working with my kids and everything. Um, and so I found Azure D and we started meeting online. And she also does EMDR and interfamily systems and kind of just a little bit more than what I had been doing.
Yeah.
And so we started last January. And I don't, I think ketamine, it was in my awareness because one of my cousins who's had a very, very hard life, his daughter due to her upbringing, had a very hard life. And she was talking about ketamine on social media and how, like, we had seen her and she just was a totally different person. And I was like, how is this even possible?
Yeah.
Um, and so she'd kind of, and my kids were like, oh, like she's doing ketamine. Did you hear she's doing ketamine? And I'm like, what's ketamine? Um, so I kind of did some research and I had asked Azure about it. Um, but I was not in a so it came in I really started to kind of think about it, and then last April I don't remember what exactly happened except for that I think I was in like a yoga nidra state because I had just started a yoga certification, and I just really felt like ketamine was going to be the catalyst for me, even though I didn't really know what it was.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so I started diving in deeper to like what it was and if my insurance, is that an insurance thing or not? And I started hormone replacement therapy. I had just had a lot of things going on. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, before first I'm going to address hormones. So I addressed those in April and May, and they were helpful, but I was still really depressed and really high anxiety where we moved to Utah in August of 2023 and I really just never left my house. Like I didn't really leave unless I had to take kids to school, go to the grocery store, go to church. Um I didn't want to make friends because I was afraid we'd move again. And I didn't want to have to like do that. We'd moved three different states in like 4 years' time. And so I was just in this place where like I just had my Kindle support animal, that's what I call it. And I just read most of every day. Um, and so I'd been trying therapy and we'd been doing EMDR and I was just trying like to get out of it. And I could not, I'm a life coach. Like I have lots of, tools and, felt like, I mean, I knew how to do tapping, I knew how to do all these things, and just nothing was really getting deep enough or working to snap me out of it, for a better word. Um, and so then after working with Azure D, uh, I just had decided finally, I normally do everything naturally, but it just had gotten so bad for me that I was like, fine, whatever. Like, I'll just try an antidepressant. And my insurance in order to cover ketamine, you had to try three different types of antidepressants and fail at them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't know that I want to go down that journey, but I'm just going to try one. Um, so I tried one and I had severe side effects within the first 24 hours. And I did it for a week and then had met the psychiatrist that had prescribed it. And I just said, no, this is a hard stop. Like I can't, I'm trying to leave my house and now I'm having digestive issues to where I cannot even leave my bedroom.
Yeah.
So this can't be helpful. And
Yeah.
then I had some other mental things happening with it. So I came off of that one. And then we tried a different branch and I tried that one and had severe side effects. And I'm pretty in tune with my body. And so I was like, I knew that none of those were the answer for me, but that it was going to be part of my journey. And so I talked to her and I said, these are the side effects I'm having with that. And she's like, wow. She's like, you are like the extreme of all the side effects that go with these different two medicines. And I'm like, yeah, my body doesn't love this. Um, so I'd also been diagnosed with ADHD, which I made complete sense to me, but I didn't even think about. I do have two daughters with ADHD, and they're both so different. Um, so then we tried an ADHD medicine instead of an antidepressant.
Uh-huh.
And that actually really helped my anxiety. It was interesting. It really helped my anxiety. And I was able to focus, and my brain wasn't like really spiraling out of control with a lot of the other things. I was able to like get some things done, which helped my confidence. And I was getting out of bed. And so that was helpful. And then about 2 weeks later, my mother-in-law passed away from cancer. And so they had been talking to me about like trying a different, antidepressant. I was like, I can't like handle side effects of anything right now. Like I'm teaching swimming lessons, so I need to be able to leave my house. That was helping with some of my depression, like getting out in the sun and working with little kids. So then August rolled around. They had prescribed a lower dose of the first antidepressant that I was on. And I said, okay, like I'll try it. So I tried that one and side effects weren't as bad, but still had them.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of just pushed through that one. Um, so that because I'm like, this is my third one. Like, this is what I have to do. Like, let's just see if it works. And the benefits did not outweigh the side effects for me. And even just talking to the psychiatrist that I was working for. And so she's like, and I just think that you're a really good candidate for ketamine. So then she got that prescription written and I'll say one of the reasons why this was going to be doable for me is that the copay for me for ketamine was only going to be $45.
That's the only way.
So, so that was
Yeah.
very affordable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I was like, okay. And then it's kind of like once I got to that step, then I started researching ketamine more.
Mhm.
And I was talking to Azurdy and at this time I'm also trying to get more into a better mental headspace. Like I'm not just doing the antidepressants, I'm doing the hormones are working well for me. I'm sleeping better. Finally, I'm actually sleeping. Um, and I'm doing some more meditation work and really kind of preparing for it. So, like, I had the prescription for it in September, and then Azurdy referred me to you. She was talking about like what it would be to have a guide. Because as I was doing the research, I'm like, I am not going to sit in a room alone and do a psychedelic. And like, like I had never done drugs before or anything. And I'm like, why would I like be alone when I'm going to do this? Like, this makes zero sense to me in a
Mhm.
strange place with a blindfold on,
You were
you know.
so independent though. You handled it like a boss, but
Oh man.
yeah.
Well, I did, and well, let's just say why I did. I did because you were there. Like
Yeah.
like I was able to completely relax because I knew you had my back the whole time, right? Um, so I did the research on the ketamine and I'd kind of prayed about the timing on it and then I reached out to you. We started to connect. Um, one of the things I really appreciated, I was sort of um I mean, I think I can talk woo woo here. I was sort of like checking my solar return in my natal chart to see like when good timing would be for me to do the ketamine. Um, and we had talked about doing it in November, and then that kind of wasn't working out. And I was worried about like the financial part of it with it being like December and Christmas and everything. But I just had this knowing that I needed to get it done before the end of the year, like that the timing was going to be that time. And so I had a conversation with my husband, and he was just like, "Yeah, let's do it." Um, and then the other thing I think was really helpful is you and I met in person, right? And because I still was having questions, I'm like, "Do I feel like this is going to be an answer that fixes it?" Because I'm the kind of person that tries lots of different, like I said,
Yeah.
I have lots of different healers that I've worked with and different things and different modalities. And I thought, okay, is this just me thinking that this is going to actually work, or do I really feel like this is going to really work? And so then when you and I met, and I was able to just kind of be at peace with the decision, it was good confirmation for me when we met. I was like, okay, like
There was just
let's
a
try.
question I remember
Yeah.
asking you, and you sat there for a minute and you were gonna answer a certain way, which wasn't the full truth, but then you were like, I'm gonna be honest and tell the real truth. And I was like, all right, you are a good candidate. It's gonna make me cry because it was I think that's my gift is to be able to see people clear,
Mm-hmm.
and allow you to be authentic.
Hmm.
My son knows I'm busy, but
Yeah. I loved it because
I,
you're like, you can't lie to me. And I was like, oh,
yeah, I probably
well,
did.
you didn't know you did say it. No, it is like right here. Because I was like, okay, like, how do I say this? Like, how do I word this way or like this? Like, or is this really what I'm thinking? Or is this like, is this my superficial self talking, like my ego talking, or is it like really here? And then you're like, well, and just so you know, like you can't lie to me. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I should just say the truth then.
Yeah, from me to pipe in from a medical standpoint, what I would say is like one, I feel like you definitely did all the things right of trying between starting with therapy and then also looking into hormones. I think a lot of people in perimenopause, menopausal age kind of write that off, and it's just traditionally we're just thought like that's something you have to handle, and so that is one of those boxes to check off. And I think that when you say you really had to get vulnerable, which is hard, and I feel like usually when I do a ketamine consult, I can usually tell if somebody is going to do well or not, or is ready for ketamine or not, by how vulnerable they are and how willing they are to put in the work to make it a successful treatment, right? Because it really is like that you can't play victim, you got to change, and breaking those walls down to let light in is hard. That's like a growth thing, right? Like growth is hard. And so being able to have the bravery to one go into it and knowing that like yeah, there's gonna be some walls being broke down to be able to let light in. That's hard, and that's where I think integration is so helpful
Yeah.
to help walk you through that. I think step one is really being vulnerable and being able to allow your ego to dissolve and grow on it, and that's where like with integration it's just pivotal for allowing the treatment to do its job, and trusting and embracing that process, and the longevity of it with integration is in my clinical opinion a lot better
Yeah.
than trying to
Yeah.
figure it out yourself. It's really kind of sometimes it's hard to figure it out yourself, and
Yes.
really like looking into those deeper rooted issues of that cause those triggers. I kind of say it's it's almost like as if you're a kid and you touch a hot fire, your brain's automatically saying, oh, don't touch that, that's hot. You build these certain reactions throughout your life to certain triggers, and it kind of goes about the way of just, that's just how it is, when it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what's great about the neuroplasticity with ketamine, is it helps it not have to be that way, and helps you be able to kind of dissolve that victim mentality to rebuild new pathways. And the biggest thing I always tell my patients is, you don't have to. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree. You don't have to agree with things. It's about letting things go and accepting things the way they are, so that you can move into this more peaceful realm. But you guys can cut me off. I just like this is a
No.
beautiful story, because it's so, I would say it's so, it is so common in even the, antidepressants and whatnot, of people don't want to feel numb, and they don't come without side effects. And it is hard because, with insurance based ketamine or Spravato, like, you do have to show that you've failed these treatments, and that takes time, and obviously side effects, and also delaying kind of this really effective treatment um, in that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like if I can say what I'm proud of myself for doing is doing the work, doing the
Yep.
prep. You know, I didn't, I think when I was reading some things, a lot of people, I think, they're not willing to do the hard before and after.
A
Um,
100%.
so I was doing yoga. I was doing meditation. I was journaling. I was doing the therapy. I was doing EMDR. I was the hormones. I was finally sleeping, which I knew that nothing could help if I wasn't like finally sleeping. I mean, I would have
Yeah.
been sleeping like 3 hours a night for a couple of years. And
Mm-hmm.
and so once I was like, okay, now I feel like the hormones are here. And then I was like, okay, because and then I'll start this antidepressant and then come off this and then the ADHD meds, right? And that was helpful. And so yeah, so then we met and we decided to do 3 sessions. And hang on, I'm sorry, I have a kid calling. Um, and and I timed it over. Well, I was trying to get it done before the end of the year because I knew our insurance was changing again in January and I wasn't quite sure what that was going to look like. But I also really wanted it to be, I'm sorry, give me a second. She's just going to keep calling me.
You're totally good. I'm gonna
You
hurry.
know,
My
I'll
guy
just
pipe in.
drop in a minute. So I think that ketamine is such an amazing, moving experience. It's knowing who needs it and when they need it. And as a team, recognizing that and holding space for them and meeting them where they are and helping them move through. It's life changing,
Yeah.
and people don't know what they don't know. But every treatment isn't the same, the holding space isn't the same, everything it's being able to read your client and know where they are and help them move, because it is crazily amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is key of knowing, when you say, knowing who is ready or not. And I think putting in the work, those are the two biggest things. And I think, if somebody is not willing to put in the work, or not wanting to, like, it's just that those two things I think are pivotal in knowing, who's a good candidate for it or not.
Right.
Right. And that's what a team does, recognizing this, because we're there as bridge holders to move them. And if they don't do the work, it's just going to bring up stuff, that it's confusing. So it's guiding them to say, hey, let's do the work, you know?
Yeah. And I think sometimes, what I would say on that is, sometimes I think it's hard for patients to um, fully, I think they may need a little bit more assistance to kind of dissolve that ego And that's where the trochees are interesting. I was very against them at first, and then I had an integration coach who came from the Netherlands, got her neuropsychology degree in the Netherlands, Sarah, and they're much more liberal with things over there, and so
Right.
he had said, I've like practiced clinically with trochees over there, and they'd seen a lot of good results with it. The bioavailability of it is about a third of injections or infusions. And so I was kind of really against it at first, but with what I would say on my trauma patients, or like my vets, they seem to need a lot more maintenance. And so in an effort to try and get them to not need as much maintenance, and this is despite intensive therapy and EMDR, all things, right? With the exception of antidepressants, which I'm like, it's hard because the studies do show that you may need less maintenance if you are on an antidepressant. At the same time, like I like feel for people who don't want to be, on antidepressants or feel numb too. So you
Hmm.
kind of have to treat this as a very
100%.
custom like case. And it is, even the trochees can kind of help people get to the point of needing or of being ready for a more intensive treatment.
You know
Oh,
what I've
yeah.
also
I mean,
noticed
it's,
too, guys, just like I want to pipe in really quick just because this is recorded and it's been something that's really opened my eyes is after I was in an accident on Halloween, it really helped me when I went into a meditation. It helped me really heal all of it together, the body with massage, the spiritual with the sound. Like I was literally just able to go in and I feel like heal myself with the trochees. And but if I really want to get into my psyche, then I'm going to go into a really deep journey, but there is definitely a good need for the trochees for so many different reasons. So,
Yeah, I think it's interesting to it's exciting and interesting to see kind of where things play out in the future,
mhm,
because one of the ways ketamine works is being it helps with neuroinflammation. There's like some granted very premature animal studies showing that the ketamine orally in the gut inflammation is helping gut brain access. It's just there's a lot, I think, on the horizon if we just had a lot of money to do more studies on ketamine, right?
agreed. Yeah, but it is exciting. There are a lot of possibilities just in my own experience by just everyone's needs are so unique and so different and change as we evolve. And it's just been a consistent medicine for me and my family who are highly sensitive people and have ADHD and all the things to really clean out and get organized with our thoughts. So, okay, Tiffany, I want you to really kind of tell us a little bit more because I want to be able to help you going forward because this is our team as well.
Okay.
So I just want to kind of walk through where you're at on your journey and how we can support you too.
Okay. So do you want me to talk about my three, or do you want me to
Briefly,
stay
or
where I
just
am?
kind of like
Okay.
what you got.
I'll summarize kind of what it was like. Okay.
Yeah.
Why I felt like they were successful.
Hmm.
So here's the funny thing is Azure D and my male therapist and even the psychiatrist Suzanne I work with, they all called me a unicorn with my ketamine experience because it was extremely positive for me. Um, and so let's see, we did the first one on a Thursday. And so some things that when I've talked about it with people that I think helped my experience is I got the book from you. I started doing some of the journal prompts.
Hmm.
The nurse had called me ahead of time and had told me, to kind of write down some intentions. I appreciated that it was intentions versus expectations. So I was focused on that.
Hmm.
Um, And then you had asked me like what my end goal was after the three. And so I kind of had started that, which is kind of how I do goals. So I was like, here's my end goal, and then kind of work my way backwards. And I'm like, ideally, here is this, at the end of these three, like, here's the experience I want to have. Um, and because I still feel like I didn't even know like kind of what it was going to be like for me, because everybody said it's different from everybody. So that was kind of hard because I like to know what to expect, you
Mhm.
know. So that was part of my ego got a good
I will
lesson
pipe in
on
real quick is when I first
letting
met
it.
you, you were pretty controlling.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
a lot more relaxed now.
Yeah. It's how I've survived with like packing and my husband's job changing. I'm just like always like, okay, I'll just have to do, and that just kind of keeps, me moving.
Sure.
Uh so yeah, so I wrote out some intentions, and I had purposely planned. So this was on a Thursday that I was doing the first section session. Friday, I no, Saturday morning I taught yoga, and then Sunday was the equinox. I mean the winter solstice. So Saturday night I had gone and walked. My friend owns a labyrinth in Provo, and it's lit up with like 1,000 tea lights for the winter solstice. So I walked that, Saturday. Sunday, I went to church. Monday I went to a yoga session in Heber that had a live violinist that was like incredibly talented. Um, and it was like a women's circle before and then that. So that was Monday night. And then Tuesday, we did the second ketamine. So I stayed off social media.
Yeah.
I stayed off TV. I was like, if I'm going to invest this time and all of this and I want change, then I don't want to be influenced by any other thoughts except for what my body needs to work through, what my mind needs to work through. And I'm a very visual person. So I knew if I had some other visual in my mind. I mean, I even stopped reading my fantasy books and I just stuck with like a really simple book so that I wouldn't have any other, I guess, influences. Um, and so then, we had that Tuesday, and then like Christmas Eve was the next day, and then we did the following Tuesday. So in my first experience, um, we just started with basic. You brought the sound bowls. You had curated my playlist. I brought my cheetah Minky, with me and my own eye mask because I'm particular about my eye masks. And I'm so glad I did because I like my eye mask has pop out so that I can open my eyes while I have it on. And that was actually key for me during it because I remember opening my eyes and going, okay, wait, is this the inside of my eyes? Is this my mind? Or is this like the inside of my mask? I remember having that thought. Um, and so yeah, so we got there and um with the first time the nurse came in and she put the IV in and she's like, okay, it'll take like 10 minutes. And this is where I think it was so key. One is you picked me up and drove me, right? And I had been writing out all these intentions, and you said, okay, what have you been thinking? And I kind of shared with you what I kind of thought was the most pressing thing I needed to work on of the three things I decided were like the hardest things, And you said, okay, we're going to forget about all of that. And right now, all I want you to think about is like allow, allow, allow. And I was like, what? Like, I want to like plan out the next three. Like, this is what we're working on this time. This is what we're working on the next time. And so I had to say, okay, I just have to let this go. Um, so I got in there and I think we got to like minute 7 and I had to lift up my eye mask and I'm like, I am feeling nothing. Is something wrong? Like, I'm not quite sure. And that's why I'm so glad that you were there because I thought I mean, I would have known, be like nurse, video camera, like, hey, am I okay? Is it not
Yeah.
working? And I think it kicked in like right before she came in and I could feel myself dropping and she came in and said something. I'm like, nope, it just kicked in. And I'm like, I'm good, you know? Um, and so like I said, I'm a visual person. So like I had, for me, I'm also a mountain girl and ocean and water, definitely lots of water. I'm a Cancer, lots of water. So I just was floating in the ocean and just like dropping in and completely supported and just like there. Um, I'm also a math person, so then it started switching into geometry shapes for me and just different things, and So it was a really beautiful experience. I joke with people that if they want to do ketamine and they haven't watched Inception, that they should watch Inception because it's like dropping down the elevator into deeper levels. That's how I did it. Um, and then Interstellar, where Matthew McConaughey is sort of like floating around in the fifth dimension. I'm like, so it's kind of like that. It's like fifth dimension, like nothing, time, space, da da da. Da. And they're like, oh, okay. Um, and then I was able to uh, come out of it pretty well. I think I came out of that first one really well. Um, but so that's what kind of like what Cassie was saying is the prep and then the safety of being there with you there. And because even at the end, I'm like, nobody, probably because you were there, but I'm like, nobody told me like at the end, like you're going to wave your hand in front of the camera and say, hey, I'm done. Or like, is somebody watching me? Like, I don't even know um, what to expect with this. And then being able to like process and talk it out on the way home. And then for me, the physicality of having yoga planned a few days after, I think really helped to integrate it into my body.
Mhm.
And and that night, so Thursday night when I got home, I told my kids, I'm like, I'm not cooking dinner. I'm not doing anything. Like, don't fight, don't complain to me. Like I'm literally like the rest of the night is mine. So I really protected my energetic boundaries, I felt like. And so the second one, we upped the dose. And oh, so then, but I just kept thinking that first time, like, just allow, allow, allow. And when I would start to like control what was happening with the visual that I was seeing, I was like, oh, nope, allow, allow, allow. Like, if I want this to be successful, I have to just allow, allow, allow. Oh, let's also remember that your book says to like talk to ketamine. So my ketamine, his name is Kate.
Yeah.
Kate, my ketamine, she's my ketamine. So when the IV goes into my body, I just say, welcome, Kate. Welcome to my body. Welcome to my brain. Please just make yourself at home. Um, and I don't know how much you wanted me to talk about like what my experience was like with the inside out stuff or whatever, but
No, I feel like
hey,
that's kind of personal
yeah.
to us, but where you're at now and what I there is a whole thing that I think is another very personal story to share about your like you had a very spiritual experience with your family, and I'll share this sweet little just tidbit that I got to see was that your intention from the get-go was to really strengthen your relationships with people because moving has made you feel this deep sense of abandonment.
Hmm.
And so you've had these guards up, and even I would say with your husband,
Oh, yeah. Resentment for my
So
husband was super high. Yeah.
in that third one, or maybe it was the second, I can remember, but your mother-in-law had come into you and you had had this very spiritual experience with her. And with that, but she gave you permission to start finding his family. He's adopted.
Hmm.
So there's just been this magical
Yeah.
story that came out of this that we would have never ever like thought of would have happened. It was
Yeah.
so magical.
Yeah. Yeah. After my first session, um, because my husband and I have been rocky for a couple of years. And my resentment towards just his job changes and just a lot of different things. I mean, like just so high. And during my first experience, there something had happened, and I mean, like I didn't really even have a vision with it. I just remember like being in this space of comfort, and I just had this thought of like my 19-year-old self, which is how old I was when I got married. I was like a month from being 20, but I was 19. And I was just like, I waited a long time for him. And I remember the Azurity even said, okay, was this someone in the future or was this your current husband? And I said, it actually was my current husband. She's like, okay, that's interesting. Um, and I was like, okay. And I walked out of there and all my resentment towards him was gone. Like it just was gone. And it wasn't even like my intention for that one, I don't think. So I just was like, I'm just gonna allow, like, I just trusted Kate that my body knew what needed to be first. and what needed to be second, what needed to be third, even if it wasn't what I wrote down. I was just going to say, this is what I think it is, but if it's not, I am open to whatever needs to be. And so, yeah, it was so the resentment was gone. And then I felt like I had recommitted to my marriage. And my mother-in-law, who passed away last July, that because I had recommitted to my marriage, she was like, okay, now I will show you how to find what you guys have been looking for. And then within 2 weeks' time, so then I had ketamine the next Tuesday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. My husband's birthday is the day after Christmas. And on his birthday, I was guided on Ancestry how to find this link and this link. And then 3 days later, I had another ketamine session and somebody else helped find, we found his birth father's name and a birth father picture. And it just was like, it was crazy fast and crazy awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and so, the integration afterwards with knowing. So for me, when I tell people, I'm like, don't ever do it without a guide. And I'm like, Rochelle was always checking in with me like beforehand, the night before. I was processing ketamine at least 24 hours before I had it. I could feel it. Like I was like, oh, okay. Um, and so then when I got there, it was like, okay, like I already feel like this is what's happening. And I think your booklet said that, like I would probably start to feel it 24 hours ahead of time. So I felt like I was in this 3 week window of knowing I had session after session. And I'm glad that I didn't do more than one a week,
Yeah.
especially with the holidays. I was like, nope, my body wants to like really integrate this and process this. So once a week was good for me. Um, so where I am now, so the result of those three, I will say, I came off my ADHD meds. I didn't need them anymore. My brain just really just felt clear. And I had already intentionally started in December to try to go to like one, what I call my word for this year is gather. So I would try to go to like one gathering event outside of my house, but it was still hard. Now it's not hard at all. It's not hard at all. Um, and then I would say like um, so much divine flow like just started happening, like things falling into place that I was like, oh my gosh, oh my, what? Um, to the point where, and this is where I think it's really evident to me how successful it was. Okay. So for Tamara and Cassie, my husband, you kind of got the gist that he's kind of changed jobs frequently, and it's always by some weird thing. It's not like just my husband. Like 9 people from the executive team get let go. My husband's one of them when we lived in Texas. We moved to Wisconsin. We're there a year and a half. The plant that my husband is managing, the company that's international, which is why we moved because they were a solid company, decides to close that plant and move everything to Mexico. So 70 people are let go. Okay. So this is kind of what I've been dealing with, these big, just weird things. So this is how I know that my ketamine worked because 2 weeks ago, I'm in the Dominican Republic on a trip with some business partners that I've recently partnered with and having a beautiful time. And my husband calls and says that the company he works for in Wisconsin, he commutes, he's there 2 weeks and home 1 week. We've been doing it for 2 years. And he had just started coming home every other week in January. So, like, life was looking good. Um, he calls me and says that the company, he got an email that the company has decided to close doors and close up shop. So
Oh
80
no.
people, 80 people out of a job. And my husband's a consultant, so he won't even get unemployment. So it's just these weird things, right? So I had a week, and because I'm so familiar with how my body responds to that news, and like, oh my gosh, do I have to move? I have a junior, she's going to be a senior. Like, oh my, all of these things, right? I waited for it to happen. And I was
Yeah.
sitting on the beach, I was standing on the beach. It was our last night there, and I'm like waiting for it to happen. Like the panic, the like whatever. And I like cried a little bit and like just this disbelief of like, what the hell? you know? And I had just these amazing women surround me that I was there with and boost me up. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay.
Yay.
And I'm gonna stay in my own lane. Like that's my husband's journey, where I usually like I jump into his lane and I'm like, let me help you. Like, how can I do this? And all these things. And so I had a week that was really hard when I first got back. All of last week, I was in anger, I was in denial. Um, and then I had two hard days of depression where I even had suicidal thoughts pop in again. And I was like, I'm just so tired of this, of this. And I literally spent an entire day in my closet in the dark. And I said, do not bother me. I may read my Kindle. I may just sit here in the dark because it's safe. This is where I do all my therapy because the internet's really good in my closet. That's where all my sessions are. And so it was a safe space. And and then I got to Sunday and I had something else. And then it was like Monday. Um, like I had done some yoga and I'd done some meditation. I was like, you know what? I know what my next ketamine session is. And I knew it before this even happened. Like I knew it on the beach when I was doing a breakthrough circle. Um, And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to like change my ketamine session. I'm going to have to like think again about my husband's jobs. Like I'm going to need to let that go. And then it was like, bullshit. No, we are not stepping into his lane. Like stay in your lane. This is what you were told the next session was. It's this, your relationships with women and this and this. And then this week, so I guess it's only Wednesday, but I was like, oh, I'm just going to stay in my lane and I'm okay.
I
And
love
my
that.
brain like shifted and I'm like, okay, you know what? This and I had this thought. I was like, I cannot deny that I had all of this divine flow and so many things happening for me that this is not part of that.
Yeah. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think
This is part of that.
embracing and
But I've not been
trusting.
able
Yeah.
to do that because it's been so heavy for so many years that even if somebody told me that spiritually or like whatever, I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's nice for you. That's so nice for you.
Well,
But
it's
my
also a
brain
nervous
can't
system
get there. My
reset.
brain cannot get there. And
Yeah.
so now I'm like, okay, like I just need to regulate. And even tonight I have plans to like listen to my ketamine playlist. I'm like, oh no, like I visualized myself in bed with just my ketamine playlist. I'm like, no, actually, I think I can deep into this. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's how I knew that I had had huge results. And I've had therapy twice since then with my two different therapists. And they both are like, okay, I feel like you're still like, you look like you're still doing okay. And I'm like, I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be okay.
What I love about ketamine is there is long lasting effects, don't you think, Cassie?
Yeah. So what I mean, there are a few things I would hit on that I think are pivotal for patients to hear is one, I love the fact, Tiffany, that you like just embraced what came when I say that I call it the
Yeah.
ketaverse. I had a patient call it the ketaverse once and it's like stuck with me ever
Love it.
since. But trying to not control what happens in the ketaverse. Your brain is so powerful. It's amazing to
Mhm.
see kind of where it takes you. And I really think it helps, dissolve your ego enough to allow your brain to go where it needs to go. Like your brain knew it needed to address the resentment with your husband. And maybe, and that's where I'm like, maybe you don't know the answers of what the more um deeper rooted issues are that we need to work on until after you really think about it, after the ketaverse, right? We give our patients a gratitude journal that, and we, neuroplasticity is highest for the 72 hours after a ketamine as well. So when you read all these self-help books of like be happy, or like think happy, be happy, it's like, well, if only it was that easy, right? I think ketamine
Right.
helps you get there. You have to put in the work. You have to be able to, let your ego down. Resentment with your husband was like a big thing. And I think that comes up a lot with a lot of people between religion and relationships, things that they wouldn't think that are really contributing to triggers, right? And so those are kind of like added benefits if you can address them right. And what I would say is, what I tell people is, and this is Eckhart Tolle who says, if you can just think that people are doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. And that's not a linear I mean, like, people's knowledge of how things should be or how you should act or whatever, those are all over the map. And so the best way to put in your mind of like, people are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have is also very helpful in kind of allowing that kind of ego to dissolve. And I think you'll have these triggers. It's not just a one and done, and then you're if your husband's going through these job changes, it's very, those are triggers. It's like a vet going through the 4th of July and having that trigger. There are certain triggers that I think the more you're knowledgeable about it, which you are, the better it can be like addressed and built, like have healthier pathways built. And that's like the point of where ketamine is, and getting you there. The other thing I would say is, you say how much, how pivotal integration is, and intentions, and 100% that I feel like, despite having any dose increases, I've had patients have completely different experiences. And this is why I was like, everybody gets integration in a series with Nirvana initially, because they have to learn how to hold that safe box. They have to learn how to really, I always laugh, because I'm always like, I always make everybody's cortisol levels like and blood pressure like spike up before, because I'm like the provider, white coats and blah blah blah. It's really calming your amygdala down to have, like, to think more clearly, essentially. And so I think those are some really good, like, things that you touch base on, and I would say is a very common thing that we see as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like going into the first one, I was like, okay, if I could have a miracle out of this, what would it be? And I'd be like, there's a girl that I know and she's just like always positive. They call her a Disney princess. She can sing and she's always happy, to the point where it would
Awesome.
irritate me. I'm like, that cannot be real. Like, are you hiding a serial killer? Like that just can't be real, you know?
Right.
And she just really is. And so I just had this thought. I was like, I am a natural optimist. I am a natural optimist. And so I did. I kept seeing, like, I'd come out of my session, I saw just gratitude that I had been forcing before came more naturally. And with our first two sessions, I did go in with allow, allow, allow. My second session was allow. And then I also had it was like, I love and accept myself. And by the third time we went in, you asked me in the car, like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, no, I think like today is like awaken. And I knew, and I know going into the next one, it's supposed to be arise. Um, so, so yeah, I think like the integration with, like Epsom salt baths and, the yoga movement and some sort of somatic movement and breath work. And, so I had just so many things that I had planned, but also that just came into my awareness that I realized afterwards actually did help me integrate, that I hadn't done purposely, but the universe
You
had provided.
probably, I don't have the motivation to even go do those things prior
Mm.
to, like, the trophies really do help me maintain where I do get out of the house. Social anxiety is a thing. And so I notice that with the treatments and the maintenance of it, there's no shame about it. Or if
Mhm.
I need a booster, it does help me go get to the gym and
Yeah.
be more social. And
Yeah.
I'm just a super highly sensitive person, so I don't know if
Mhm.
that, but for me that really really helps
Yeah.
me get out
And
into
I mean,
the.
what I also tell, patients is your brain, it's almost like your brain is, it's like diabetes, right? So if you have high sugar in your blood, and your pancreas is just working overtime trying to produce enough insulin to drive that sugar in the cells, that it gets like tired and it burns out, and it becomes your body, you end up needing exogenous replacement. Well, your brain is similar in kind of these feel good chemicals, right? If it gets blunted so much that like you just don't feel them. And so ketamine does have that extra push where it's almost like a chemical reset, if you will. It's like the new and improved ECT. It's
Right.
not, these are not, like, I wouldn't say that's medically, but that's the simple way I can help patients understand it is, it helps those chemicals, you actually start to feel them more instead of them being blunted over so many years. You will feel those good hormones, and it's kind of a reset. It's
Yeah.
almost like an exogenous insulin replacement. But what I would say is, I tell all my patients, ketamine is only gonna be as effective as you want it to be and how much work you put into
Mhm.
it, because I've seen this so many times.
Yeah.
Despite dose, the studies show a certain milligram per weight over a certain time in a certain frequency interval. Based off of those studies, it's like that's exactly how I treat patients. And I've seen completely different experiences despite the dose being exactly the same. And so, where there's lacking research of more discrete, like, yes, people do better with integration. There's just a lack of studies for funding, honestly.
Yeah.
Do I think that people can do this without a therapist or an integration coach? I think a very, very, very small percentage of people can. And I would say that's the
Mhm.
tricky part, right? When you're in between insurances or you're too busy. And I think, if they've laid down the foundation work, it's possible, but I think it's a very, very small percentage of people.
Hmm.
That's why I'm going to post this on YouTube and, just pray that some of this stuff, I really do pray that it is something that does get the funding. And I mean, I'm even going in for a session this afternoon and I'm a guide. I need a guide. I
Mhm.
want to know what I'm saying. I want to know because it leaves, it's so fast, it's so fleeting. And so if I feel comfortable that I can talk it out of what I'm going through, it might be the dumbest stuff ever, but it's pertinent down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's gonna come pick me up and take me home
Yeah.
because that is very
Yeah.
valid
That's amazing.
time.
I will say, because I just remembered this, but I used essential oils during mine too. I
Yes,
mean, that ylang ylang
Yeah.
for the oil of the inner child, that was huge for me with the first one.
I'm bringing
And
flower essences today.
yeah. And then we did Blue Lotus, the second one. And I
Yeah.
think I grabbed ylang ylang again and geranium, the oil of love and trust. And so those, I remember like even the nurse walked in, she goes, "Wow, it smells really good in here." And I'm like, "You guys really should be offering these. Like,
Right.
this should just be part of it because
Yeah, I mean,
it helped integrate afterwards." I was like,
yeah.
okay, it helped me open during my meditation the day before and kind of like really get into that. And I think that that's why my 19-year-old self was able to be like, hey, like we've waited for him, like, and
Mm.
and that love and trust. And then I think I used some Blue Lotus because you had recommended that. So I
Oh,
grabbed that and then
frankincense.
frankincense. Yeah,
Hmm.
the frankincense. Yeah, because that's like
That's
crossing the
where
blood-brain barrier and nothing else can. And I'm like, I love that you guys have sound machines and you have this, but gosh, like throw some oils on somebody, and let it really get into
Yeah,
its
I
head.
think that's definitely helping calm your amygdala down for
Yeah,
a more therapeutic session.
yeah.
And my integration coaches would typically do that for that. And I'm always like, I'm gonna I don't want to go in there and give them a shot because I'm always the one that brings it back up, right? Like if but I think yeah, you guys hit it right on the spot of intent. And then I had a therapist who would always say embrace and trust the process. And those are huge advice that I would say for any patient. You guys have nailed it.
Yeah.
This was perfect, you guys. I really appreciate it because it was just from beginning to finish what a successful guided session would be like. I think it answered a lot of the questions that people will have. So I'm going to post it and I really appreciate all of your feedback. So
Yeah, I appreciate you guys spreading more awareness to this. I think medically it's hard because they're so it's coming from traditional medicine. I came from the ICU. It's very much a you follow gold standard care, this and that, and sometimes it doesn't look like that. And mental health is hard. So I think this is
Mhm.
huge for mental health when there hasn't been any real breakthrough since the 80s. And so I'm super stoked on what's to come with psychedelics in the future too. So
Well, we're
Good,
stoked to
good
be
for you guys.
collaborating with you now. We found you. We're gonna have some fun things that we get to collaborate on and
You
expand
guys are
on.
the amazing ones. You guys do all the hard part.
Yeah, right.
I just it's very I mean kids have a lot of neuroplasticity. This is why they're so multiple when they're young. And so it's kind of like almost getting your childhood back of
Yes.
okay, like let's retrain the
Uh-huh.
brain and let's get rid of all the things that, there's so much generational trauma these days. I'm like, I'm giving that to my kids for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For
But
sure.
like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the biggest part is like no more victim. We're going to dissolve our ego. We're going to figure out how to be happy because just like the book A Man's Search for Meaning, if you can lose your entire family in a concentration camp and still live a happy life, you can't tell me no one else can. And so now it's like accountability. Let's figure this out and let's go live a happy life. I mean, you only get one, maybe
Cassie,
you get
that
more.
is
I
my
don't know.
favorite book. That game changed
Yeah.
my entire life. That was how I was the most optimistic because I think
Hmm.
about that all the time. I'm like, if he can be happy, I can be happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what shut me up for
And
sure.
I love
Yeah.
that book and so many others, but that's the thing why I think ketamine was so helpful because I knew it.
Yep.
I'm a certified life coach. I have a degree and I work with wellness and all this. And so I knew all the things, but I could not get myself there.
You
Yeah.
just need a little
Right.
push. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was just the little bit of the catalyst that I needed to shift me back. And I, when you were talking about that childhood, it reminded me because, I got to experience Christmas after my second one. And it was just this childlike wonder and awe Christmas morning. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. Like,
And I got the
wow,
most
you know?
beautiful Christmas text from her. This is
Yeah.
the most rewarding work I've ever done in my whole life. So,
Yeah, it really is. And holidays are hard for people. I think it brings up a lot of triggers. So I'm glad that you did it during the holidays. And the other thing that you brought up, there's something else that I was gonna say. Like you hit that when you said, I reserved my space and time for me. I told my kids, like, mom's not available. I think that's huge. And I think there's always this mom guilt's always real. You can't do
Mhm.
right or wrong. You always think, I think that is huge to know that self-care and making sure that you take care of yourself is going to only make it to where you can help others more.
Yeah.
um
Mhm.
Yeah.
so good on you guys for spreading this word. I like think this is huge, and the vulnerability of all of you guys kind of telling your story is remarkable because I think that's ultimately what helps people, right? So thank you
yeah,
for your
thank
guys' time and
you.
arranging for this.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
divinely guided. Thank you
Yeah.
for everyone. It's here. So, all right, you guys, I am gonna stop recording this.